or call 1-888-253-3139. OccuPower. Open your eyes.
General, what do you think about the FBI saying that there was a terror alert on Monday about a potential Fort Hood situation?
The police are shoving people, shoving Alex, shoving the crowd.
Here we go, folks. I'm being assaulted.
Whether it's the radio show, the news websites, documentary films, or the nightly news, InfoWars is the tip of the spear.
Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and put more homeland security on sticking their hands down on pants on the streets?
It's up to us to set brush fires in the minds of men and women everywhere. And that's what PrisonPlanet.tv is designed to do.
You watch, the Assad regime is going to be blamed or accused of using chemical weapons against the so-called rebels.
What we see now is a war against reality. It's a war against the truth.
It's more vital than ever that supporters of freedom become members of PrisonPlanet.tv and share their membership with up to 11 friends and family. Visit InfoWarsNews.com today. Become a member, share your membership, and help take the InfoWar to the next level. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the Resistance. Live from the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
We're back for the final segment of the Alex Jones Show, just about 10 minutes left, so we're going to try and advance quickly because we got Jon Rappoport on the line of NoMoreFakeNews.com, who of course needs no introduction. He's been on the show many times before. We feature his articles regularly at Infowars.com. We're going to ask him about the CDC whistleblower, the latest on that, and Ebola. Jon Rappoport, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here, Paul.
So, Jon, tell us the latest about the CDC whistleblower. Of course, this has been completely ignored by the mainstream media. Even I thought they would at least have to address it and try and dismiss it, but they seem to have blacklisted it entirely. So tell us the latest on the CDC whistleblower. And the actor Rob Schneider recently came out and basically got fired from his insurance company job for questioning the legitimacy of certain vaccines. So tell us the latest on Schneider and the CDC.
Yes, well, as some people know by now, Rob Schneider, comedian, actor, was dropped from State Farm Insurance TV ads where he was, playing a part. And the ads had started to run, and all of a sudden they were dropped because he's made statements questioning the validity of vaccine information and vaccines. And so he was really put under the gun. I mean, they just dropped him, like a hot potato. And they issued some kind of garbled press release as to why. So this is flat-out censorship. I mean, in other words, he's not permitted in this landscape to make a statement questioning, criticizing vaccines. You can make all kinds of other statements criticizing this, that, and the other thing, but that's the holy grail of medicine. And, you get punished for it, and that's what happened to him. It's a commentary on the First Amendment and free speech in America these days that something like this would happen. CDC whistleblower goes, this is a man named William Thompson who came out of the shadows on August 27th and made a public statement through his lawyer that basically said he and his co-authors committed fraud, scientific fraud, in a 2004 study that was published, which said that the MMR vaccine had absolutely no connection to autism. And so this is an insider, a research scientist at the CDC for the last 15 years or so, who has said that he himself and others omitted vital data and basically committed fraud. The latest thing I have on this is that Thompson sent thousands of pages of documents to Congressman Bill Posey, Florida congressman, who is very receptive to information about vaccines beyond what the establishment tells us. And so Posey's staff is going through these now. And so I've queried his staff several times, asking them, is this information that you have now just related to the 2004 fraudulent study, or is there other information in there? And so far, they just haven't gotten back to me and won't answer that question. So I don't know exactly how much fraud they've got, to spark maybe a congressional hearing. I don't have a lot of hope for that, even if they have a hearing, that anything really will happen. But that seems to be the aim of some people who are hoping that Thompson will come forward and testify, which he probably will if he's subpoenaed. But I don't know how much he's going to say, how much he's going to admit if he does. I'm very interested in this data, thousands of pages. This is kind of like I don't want to call it a mini Snowden because the information could be more explosive even than the NSA information if it shows that the CDC has been covering up fraud in more than just one study, but many, many studies, which I believe is absolutely the case. They exonerate vaccines. They say, oh, no harm, no problem, everything's perfect. There's absolutely no connection to autism. And the U.S. government has made multiple statements saying they've completely vetted the problem and there is no problem with vaccines. But I know for a fact, because I've looked at other studies, that there are other fraudulent studies out there. But if a whistleblower inside the CDC can say that and show data to back it up, that would be a collapse of the house of cards.
Exactly. And I mean, it seems so toxic that the mainstream normally would at least tackle these kind of issues and try to dismiss them, but they daren't even touch it. But we've got to move on quickly because we've got about 4 minutes left. And there was an editorial recently in the Liberian Observer which blamed the United States for basically developing and unleashing the Ebola virus on Africa. David Knight, you've got a quick question to put to Jon Rappaport about that.
Well, yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, John, there's this report out of Reuters today that scientists are grappling with ethics in a rush to release the Ebola vaccine. So it really kind of ties these both things together. And they're saying that normally it takes years to prove that a vaccine is safe and effective. We had a decade where they covered up the fact that this MMR vaccine was not safe. So, address the issue of do you believe that this is something that was perhaps helped along, weaponized, introduced by the American government? And where do we go from here? Are they going to force people to take an Ebola vaccine that hasn't been proven to be safe or effective, just like they're trying to intimidate people into taking other vaccines?
I think you put your finger on it. The vaccine is the big problem here with the so-called Ebola outbreak. This is the thing to, really be on the lookout for, because all vaccines can do harm. And you rush a vaccine into production without any kind of real testing, and you say, well, the benefits outweigh the risks, and we're in this terrible situation. So now, everybody who lives in this area has to take it because some guy flew in on a plane. And if you don't take it, we can quarantine you and isolate you. These things could definitely happen in the U.S. and in other countries. And with an untested vaccine, you're just absolutely playing with fire here. So this is a big, big red flag. If this thing comes comes out and they say, well, okay, we've got a great vaccine now, and everybody should immediately take it, I think the absolute opposite is true.
And, this is GlaxoSmithKline, which just last week the Chinese government found guilty of bribing doctors in China to the extent of 297 million pounds. That's about $500 million that they paid out to doctors to prescribe their products. I mean, are we supposed to just get rid of all the ethical concerns and give them a fast track to require mandatory vaccinations?
Absolutely not. And one more quick fact here about these manufacturers. Julie Gerberding, who was the head of the CDC, during that period when Thompson and his co-authors committed fraud, she knew what was going on. She knew that this had been covered up because Thompson sent her a letter explaining, if you read between the lines, exactly what he had really found out that wasn't going to be published in the study. And in 2009, she left the CDC and eventually became the president of Merck Vaccines, which she is today. And they manufactured the MMR vaccine. I mean, so how much more explosive the story can you get than that? Yeah. And yet there's a total media blackout.
Wow.
So, John, do you think that Ebola in West Africa is a test run for some kind of engineered global pandemic? Is it a trial balloon?
I think all these so-called epidemics have been test runs. Swine flu, bird flu, SARS, West Nile, this one now. And I think that in every case, what's really being projected here is vaccine, 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 vaccine. That is the whole point of all of these. So I'm not particularly concerned unless I see some new evidence about the weaponizing element here of the virus. What I'm concerned about is that these are all ops in order to get people to take toxic vaccines, and that's really where the problem is for the rest of the world.
And of course, we've got the CDC being very coy about potential Ebola cases in the United States. Do you think there's a potential that it could spread to Western Europe, to the United States?
Well, I think what could happen is, and we don't really have time to go into this, but they could say that because the diagnostic tests that they use to decide if somebody has Ebola are so unreliable that they can be slanted in any direction that they want to.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. That's going to wrap it up for the Sunday edition of the Alex Jones Show. John Rappaport, NoMoreFakeNews.com. Thanks for joining us. Monday show back tomorrow. Stay tuned.
Unparalleled research in the development of a synergistic formulation based around the key concepts of super oxygenation. The next level in cleansing is here. With key ingredients backed by real clinical studies, the new Oxy powder, available through InfoWars Life, was invented during Dr. Group's research on the toxification of our bodies. Many herbal colon cleansers are harsh on the body and contain cheap and potentially dangerous ingredients, oftentimes full of synthetic fillers, GMOs, additives, or worse. Gently start cleaning your body with easy capsules that start working while you sleep. Oxy powder does not require time off work, and there's no need for bad tasting concoctions. Instead, Oxy powder slowly releases monoatomic oxygen into the intestinal tract and body. Experience the astonishing cleansing power of superoxide and ozonide technology. Go to InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com to get started with Oxy powder, or call 1-888-253-3139.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.